Hey everybody, welcome back to another Tech Biz tutorial. We're learning about some Dreamweaver today, and if you're taking this as part of the class that I'm teaching, you're probably just getting done with your, we did some HTML practice with just the code part of this. Then we learned how to set up and define a site and kind of get things started with Dreamweaver. And then last week we most likely did some wireframes and layouts. And now we're just learning how to put content in to those different layouts that we learned to make. So the first thing with this will be learning how to add some text in here. Text isn't always the most exciting thing to add to a web page, but it's pretty important. You want to make sure you're using good typefaces and having good spacing and all of your information having it easy and readable, all those kind of things. And so we'll be making text with this tutorial and lists and a table, and I think that'll be enough to kind of get us started to play around with these for this week, and then we'll go on from here in our next lesson. So let's go to create new, and I'm going to call this text practice. Before I click create, I should tell you, the only legwork I've done ahead of time for this is I have a folder on my desktop where I'm putting my tutorials in. You can save your stuff wherever you want it, but on my desktop, just to keep it separate from other projects I'm working on, I have a folder in here for my intro one that I did earlier this month, and then I have one here for text practice, which is the one that I'm saving this information to, so it'll all be housed in that folder. So that's the only thing I've done. So you may want to do that. You may want to make the folder now and kind of get that ready. And so in here I selected HTML, and the title text practice, doc type is HTML5, and I can click create. Alright, I'm just using the standard view, and I'm always in the split view over here where I like to see the live and the code on here. It works best for me. You do what works best for you though. I now need to define this as a site, so kind of a little review from our earlier Dreamweaver tutorials. Go to Site and New Site, and I will call this Text Practice. Might as well just keep it the same. And I'm going to select this folder to say, yeah man, that's where I want it to save to. Then I will click Save, and we're in good shape. Now what I want to do is go up here to File and Save As, and then I need to call this file the proper file. So I will call it index. We always want to call our homepage index.html, and we'll click Save. Alright, we're ready to get started. We'll give this just a real basic layout. I don't want to just have this tutorial show you how to put these things in here without having it look somewhat like a web page. So going down here, in what I'm actually going to do first before the body with this is, actually no, I'm going to put this in the body. Alright, so going inside the body here, and I'll go over here on my top right hand tab and click Insert, and I'm going to put a div in here. I don't want any content in there right now. I just kind of want it to say div because we're going to use that to help us with our layout a little bit. And then of course what I do want to do is put a header in there. Nice. Then I'm going to ignore the, a lot of times we'll put in our navigation menu, but we're not going to do that here. So no nav for this one. but I will put in a section. Alright, and then I'm going to take the content out of the section, and I want to put in, I'm going to go with 3 articles. Alright, and the reason why is because I just want to have an article for one for text, one for lists, and one for the table. So we got 1 article there. I'm going to add another one here. And we will add our final article. Alright, so we have those 3 articles in that section. Okay, then after the section, I can go down here and I'll just go ahead and add the footer. Sure. Alright, here we go. Let's go ahead and get this thing rolling. So this looks pretty good. I'll go up, File, Save. You know, if you need to, you know, you can open it up in your browser and check it out. I just double clicked on mine from the text practice page so I can kind of see it in here and make sure things are kind of working. So that looks pretty good. The next part for this tutorial, we should add our CSS. So I will go to my CSS designer and I want to add a new CSS source and go and select create a new CSS file, and I'm going to call this styles. And you can actually go to browse and make sure it's in the right folder, and then in here type in styles and then it shows you where it's at. So you can do it that way too, and click save and link and OK. And here we go. We got our source code and we have our styles.css up here, and it already linked it in there. Thank you, Adobe Dreamweaver. Alright, so let's go ahead now and kind of get this thing styled up a little bit. So I'm going to select the body, and over here with my CSS designer, alright, I'm going to, and I have body selected, I'll move my cursor over here and add a selector. Alright, and because I have body selected, it's already going to type it in there for me to help me out. Alright, and then down here it gives me some properties. Right, I'm going to type in background, and then I'm going to select background color. Alright, and then the color I want to use, starting off with the pound sign, the color I'm going to use is EC, EC, EC. It's just going to be a real light gray. Alright, and I'll click File and Save All. And I'm going to look here. Alright, and it darkened it just a little bit in there. Alright, so we know that it's working. That's always a good sign. The next thing I'm going to do is go to my div. I'm going to add that as a selector. Cool. Body div. Alright. Yep. I'll go ahead and hit enter there. Alright, and I'm going to add some properties to that. So I want to go with margin hyphen left. It's like margin hyphen left, and go 15%. Alright, and then I am going to add another property in here, and I want to go width is 70%. And I want to give this a background color of pound FA FA FA. Alright. File, save all. Let's check in here. Hey, alright, so we got kind of a little layout here. I probably should make this a little bit darker of a gray, and if I'm going to leave it for now, you know, because maybe I will end up liking it. But you know, if you ever, as we've talked about before, don't forget that's, I can just select back up there into the body, and I can click down here. The thing I kind of like about this too is after you already have it in there, you can actually click and drag in this color selector there, and once you get something you like, you can press enter, and you know, that kind of allows you, you know, if I'm just eyeballing this, normally I would kind of have a color scheme I'm going with, but for right now, you know, I just want to look at it and see if it's okay. Alright, looks good. So we'll make that work for what we're doing here. Alright, so now going here to the header. So we're going to talk a little bit about text. Alright, for the header, we have our content in here, and you know, I'm going to erase that content out of there, but I want to go up here and insert and put in a heading and a H1. Alright, we've talked a little bit about the H1. We've used it in other tutorials for early on, and I will select up here and I'll just go, having some issues here. Here we go. I'll type in title for page. Alright, and that works pretty good for that. Okay, now if I want to go down here into these other sections for this article, for the first article, this is going to be just plain text. Alright, so I will put in, remove that text out of there, and I'll go back up to insert, and I want to put in another heading, and I'm going to use a H2. Alright, and you'll notice it gets a little bit smaller in there. Alright, so in here I want to put in simple text. Alright, so that's kind of the heading for that article that we have in here. And now what I want to do is I want to add just some regular text. Alright, so let's go here to insert, and everybody knows the paragraph tag. Okay, so I'll click there, and we have information that we can manipulate down here. And I'm just going to type in the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Alright, and I want to copy that, and I'm just going to paste this in several times to kind of have this text in there. Alright, so that is how we enter in our paragraph. Alright, now when we have our text in this, I can do a couple things here. Alright, one of them is, like, let's say this part of the sentence here, the quick brown fox. Alright, I'm going to select that text, and when I do that, or I can actually do it from up here, this would probably be easier. Alright, so if I select here the quick brown fox, and I highlight it up here in my split view, I can make it bold, or I can make it italics. Alright, so I'm gonna put this one as bold, and you'll notice down here it automatically puts the strong tag in there for us. Alright, so I could do that wherever I want to. Alright, and highlight that, and then I can put that in there. Also, as you can see, you can make your hyperlinks real easily with that too, but we'll talk more about hyperlinks later. But just that popped into my mind as I saw that pop up on the screen. Then you can also select these and add your emphasized text here your italicized lettering and make it look like that. Alright, so those kind of things you can do with your text. Alright, and then you can also, in your paragraph, if I select the paragraph here, then I go up to my CSS designer and I add another selector. It's going to say, okay, the paragraph's in the body. Alright, I'm going to hit enter here. And I can do a couple of things for this. I can, go with like, I could type in color and then add a value and change the color of the typeface in there. Alright, so if I wanted to go color and I wanted to go, let me look here, and I just want to go dark gray hex value, just to kind of get an idea on here. Let's look at this. Just using my browser here. Alright, and let's say I want to kind of go with the dark gray here for the letters. Or if, yeah, I think I am going to do that. I'll go a little bit lighter, just so it stands out a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to copy that, 4044D, and alright, so here, back to my screen for the paragraph. I'm going to type in color, and I'm going to put that in, but don't forget your pound sign, like I almost did. Alright, save all, and going back here to my screen. Alright, and I mean, it wasn't real obvious, but you can see where that lightened up into a lighter gray there for a little bit. So you can make your styles to do pretty much anything you want to do for your text on here. The bold and the italics, we don't do that in our CSS because that's more of an HTML. It's more of an inline kind of thing where you do that as needed. Alright. So going back here, another thing you can do for your letters is you can go font family. Alright, and I could type in like alright, I could do something like that. File, save all, and go here and refresh it. And you can change your fonts in there as well. So let me look at this here. Let's see, if I'm just trying to look for something that would be good for this. Let me go here and type in just to search, and I want to look for like universal web font family list. Alright. So web safe fonts are something you want to look at because sometimes you'll have different fonts that are installed on your computer and not on others. And so you want to have those kind of in there, for your own knowledge to make sure other people are looking at the same thing that yours is. So if I wanted to, like for example up here on the H2, and I wanted to add this up here as a selector. Alright, section article H2. Alright, and if I go in here to fonts family, and I want to type in I select on this. Alright, you'll see how that starts looking in there, okay, and how it'll adjust to that. So that's how you would change the font, is with the font family for that. I'm not going to use Impact. I just wanted to use something that was very like obvious when I changed it to the other one. You can kind of decide what you want to use for that. For other properties with font, you know, if you ever want to look, you can just start typing in font, and they have all these different things where you can change if it's going to be the spacing for the kerning, if you want to change the size and not have it be like size 12 or whatever. You can kind of play around with those, but there's a lot of different ways where you can, you know, kind of go in and find a way to change your text for your page. You don't want it to be too distracting, you know, and you don't want it to just like take away from the content that you have on your page. But as you can see, it's pretty easy for that. You can also in here, I guess if I go in here for body and I reselect that and I want to add another one, you could use, there's also text, alright? So you can use text align, and you know, and then I could go center, I could do right, left, whatever that you want to. So text align is something that's kind of useful too. And for those of you who had me for HTML class, we did some things with center, like when we made our first poem page, and doing those kind of exercises and practices. So you can access them all in here. You just have to, you know, either if you forget what it is, and all you have to really remember is text, and then it shows in there. So that's kind of a useful tool for that. All right, so that's the text. We'll go ahead and go in here to article, our second article, and I will put in another H2, so heading, and then H2. It'll be the same size as this one up here. All right, and this one I'm going to call lists. All right, so we have these. In order to add a list, there's two types that we're going to kind of talk about here. The first one is going to be an unordered list. Okay, so this is your bulleted list or whatever. So UL, I'm just going to call this unordered list. All right. Then inside that UL, I'm going to select a list item, and I'll just go item 1 and add another list item. I'm just going to put in maybe 3 of these. We'll get the idea. Alright, we have item 2 and we have item 3. Alright, so those show up in there. And then with those list items here, I could select on one of these list items and go here to CSS Designer and go to add a selector. And this one here, it's going to say, okay, the article unordered list item. So it's being real specific. I don't want to do this to all list items. I just want it. So that's why I selected it here, and then I went up to my add a selector up there. All right, so I do want to put that in there, and I can go to list style type. All right, and I can use circle, or I could use, they give you a whole bunch of things in here that you can use, and you can scroll through and see. But you could also do square, you know, whatever. You can have them solid or empty. Just kind of scroll through those and see what you're doing, or what you want to do with that. So here it is, unordered list items. We have our square lists right there. An unordered list means it's not numbered for us on there. Alright. Then going back here to add a second list. Alright, I'll hit enter. And we'll go back up to insert. And this time I'm going to go with an ordered list. Alright, and in here I'm going to type in ordered list, just so we kind of have that identified for us on there. And then I am going to use the same list items. Alright, so I have list item 1 there, and then I'll add a second one, and then I will add my third list item. Alright, now these ones are not a square because it is an ordered list, and we only styled the list item of the unordered list. This time I'll go item 1 again, item 2, and item 3. So here we have this ordered list, and if I click on the first one and go back up here to CSS Designer and add this on here. Actually, I messed that up. If I go to add selector, my bad, and I have article OLLI and hit enter. Okay, then here I do the same thing. List style type. And you saw in there you could do items or images with that too. You could do images if you have a small picture saved. And in here, I can choose for this ordered list. I can choose lower alpha or upper alpha. Alright, so I could make that be kind of an outline format if I wanted to, and on here because I selected upper alpha. So those are some ways where you can add lists. If you want those into your web page, they can be useful, and that works pretty nicely in there. Also, I'm pretty sure if I go in here and I'm inside this first list item, and I go ahead and add another list item, I can type this information in. When I refresh my page, it's just going to add it in there. There's the second one. That's a little bit strange to me. A little bit strange. I'll have to look into that and figure out why that is doing that and why it's not having it as a second one. If you have an idea as to why, sound off in the comments below. Alright. So, or what if I do this? Okay, hold on here. So if I type in OL for ordered list, alright, and I try it like that. Yep, there we go. Alright. So if you want to have it be like an actual outline, don't do it. I didn't forget to add it as a second list item that is in there. So that's kind of how the lists work. Pretty simple. Alright, we have down here our last article then, and we'll go ahead and put in a one final time of an H2. Oops. And this will be, we'll call this one tables. This, one of my least favorite things to make when I'm coding in HTML is I don't like messing around with, not messing around with lists. It's just, to me, typing in the code for them is a little bit cumbersome. Alright, so I think it's a lot better with this one in here. So here's how this works. So this will be, I want this to be in the same article as our H2 for tables. Alright, and so all I'll have to do is go here to table, and they have like a little table wizard. This is pretty sweet. So instead of before having to think, man, how many times do I need to put all those elements in there? Here I could just go like 5 rows, or maybe I'll go like 3 rows and 5 columns. And here I can choose the table width. You can choose pixels or percent, which is pretty cool. And you can choose what the border thickness is going to be and all of that as well. And if I click OK, because it's 100%, it's going to be 100% of the 70% of this little page box that we have in here. So I thought that's pretty nice. And then of course, instead of having to go through there and typing in all your information in there, you can just edit it here, all the individual TDs up here in the table. So that, I think, is a real nice time saver, and nobody likes typing in all that stuff down below, and it just does it all for you. So very, very useful. The last thing I have here is I will just put in this, like, actually if I select my text here and I make this be italics, just say the footer goes here, and if I select this footer, then I can go to my CSS designer and add a selector, the body div footer. Alright, I hit enter, and then down in here I'm just going to go with my text align and center. Alright, and then file, save all. Alright, we'll refresh the page here. So again, this was probably longer than it needed to be, but we wanted to look at some ways to use text, and you're going to be able to have some time to play around with this and to look at some other resources. But I wanted to at least show you how to go in and kind of get this started up with Dreamweaver using text. We used our H1s and our H2s to see how those change. We learned how to use bold and italicized typefaces, and also how to change the font family, how to do the text alignment down here in our footer. We'll learn other ways to shape text in later when we learn more about images, and you know how to float our text in different areas. So that'll be kind of useful. We talked about lists and unordered lists and ordered lists, and you can make a list inside of a list item that indents it so you can go in further. You can do the same thing with unordered lists as well. It'll alternate between solid and empty shapes. And then we talked about how to set up your simple table in here using Dreamweaver. So hopefully that's useful information for you as we learn more about this Dreamweaver program. Shoot me a message if you have any questions or any comments of how to make it better. And thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next video.